right, everybody. My name is Johnny McCoy. Welcome back to the WhiteFlag Warriors Podcast. I'm the CEO and founder of the WhiteFlag app. I've got a couple of co-founders. We'll have them on this show eventually. We highlight team members and we highlight people who are within our nucleus of hope that are around our company. And we bring them on the pod and we talk to them about things, around their mental health and around their journey and around what life was like, internally in between the years while they were going through such fascinating things. And there's no more fascinating member of our team than the guy that we have on today. And that is our Chief Advocacy Officer, Justin Simmons, number 31, free safety for the Denver Broncos. And certainly my favorite player now. And Justin is mid-season and he's jumping on the pod with us today. Really can't believe it, man. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Man, are you kidding me? I'm so glad we were able to make it work. I know it can be busy to end season, and obviously you're super busy with everything you have going on, but just so excited to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. No, you've got my wife watching football now. It's awesome. She's all into it. We've got jerseys for when we come to the game, and
I love it.
Yeah, man. I'm from South Carolina, and so are a lot of the people in the company as well. And I'm in Denver now with you, but we don't have we don't have pro sports at all in South Carolina. You have the Carolina Panthers, but they're in North Carolina. So I'm latching on hard, man. I don't care. I don't care where you're going or what you're doing. And it's not just because of, your performance on the field, which is ridiculous, by the way. But, when we were first trying to figure out like what our team members would look like, we had some people within our company who played professional sports, and they were like, dude, this guy, Justin Simmons, he's in our backyard. Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, had back-to-back years. This guy, he's all pro. Yes, he was in the Pro Bowl, but the reality of the situation is he's just a really good dude that everybody respects. And it turned out to be true. I mean, nothing could have been more true than the amount of respect that I've seen from you. Not just for your play on the field, but, by the way that you carry yourself off the field. I've been to numerous Justin Simmons events, numerous. I went to one where Justin, reached in his pocket and built a playground for a school here in Denver. I went to another event at the Denver Broncos Boys and Girls Club, where every single kid in there is just, it's as if they know Justin personally. He's a close friend of theirs. They hang out with them, and, they don't know, that Justin's like this, like majorly successful professional football player. They just know he is, he's a guy who they dream to be like, maybe a pro athlete, and he's really kind to them. And so, we couldn't be happier with you being on our team, man. And, it's just been great ever since we met you. It's just been an unbelievable relationship. And I wanted to put that out there and say, how much it means to us. And then let everybody know, that there's a lot more to it than, oh, this is awesome. Our guy had 2 interceptions, in the first, 10 games this year. And so, which is true, but, you really are somebody that our entire team looks up to. So really appreciate you being here, man. Thanks again.
Man, thank you so much. It was really hard to sit here and to receive all the positive words of affirmation that you were just throwing, but I appreciate it. It means a lot. I just got a great network of people around me, and WhiteFlag being one of the bigger ones. And what you guys do is so easy to be a part of, and so easy to back, and so easy to talk about and to represent. So, man, I'm just really thankful for you guys and what you do and how you do it. I'm looking forward to many, many, many more positive outcomes with that. I think it's been a fun time.
One of those things that we're doing is Justin's putting us on his cleats, or at least partially in his cleats. It's the Justin Simmons Foundation and WhiteFlag are going to be representing as part of your Cleats for a Cause, man. And, you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. And mental health is, today is actually Mental Health Stress Awareness Day. So I always know about Stress Awareness Day. But, November's a big month for mental health, as was October. Suicide Awareness Month, and you've got cancer, you've got Cancer Awareness Month going on as well. And, there's a lot of people out there who are suffering silently. And the more people like you who are in positions like you, where people are like, no way, that guy's got it all, to talk about their personal struggles with mental health and mental illness, it really does help. Trust me. So yeah, man, let's just dive right into it. It's a new football game now. I hate to say that. I think you got drafted in what, 18 or something like that, or
16.
16. Yeah. So
Yep.
I played in 2000, and back in that day, my brothers played college football in the early 2000s, but it was a different game. You didn't have the concerns with the CT and the concussions after you're done, and you didn't have people like Damar Hamlin with the cardiac going into cardiac arrest in front of you on the field. These things, maybe they were happening, but they weren't so pronounced. Maybe it's because of social media and what it is today, but talk about being a hitter, and being somebody who plays back deep like I used to. Does it weigh on your mind at all? The concussion aspect of the game, and I know you've got kids, and you see other athletes who go through it, especially now that social media is prevalent. You've got another player who they say executed his mom. So yeah, I mean, so does that concern you at all, and does it change the way that you kind of approach the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line, like it's a fine balance. I think the rules that are being implemented into today's game definitely help a lot, right?
Yeah,
like I
for
think
sure.
I think the NFL is doing a really good job of trying to implement new rules and new strategies to try and mitigate or eliminate in total, all the research that they're finding out from former players with CTE and maybe like mental health issues. And so all those are great. I just think at the same time, we are playing a violent sport, and what you're signing up for. And that doesn't mean that there can't be steps taken like the NFL is doing to be able to, like I said, mitigate that. But I think, at the end of the day, what you're signing up for. And sometimes that includes, blows to the head. And I think there's, excessive hits, or there's the dramatic side of what football used to be, when we used to watch it growing up, as opposed to
Sean Taylor,
and all those guys and what they did, and as opposed to what it is now. And so there's some things that I still disagree with in terms of what's being asked of us as players, because anyone that's played the game knows that you're making decisions in seconds. And once you kind of commit, or you have your target zone and things change, from a defender's standpoint, it's just really tough to be able to not be in those positions. And we're the ones more times than not, especially in the secondary, we're the ones more times than not that are getting penalized for it. But in terms of thinking about that type of stuff, honestly, like I really don't. I was always, the way I was coached growing up, I feel like, keep your head to the side and, all that good stuff. I think I've had tremendous coaches in my life and throughout my career that have kind of helped me with like tackling and my form and things like that. But, so when I'm out there playing, I don't necessarily sit there and think on a week in, week out basis of, man, like trauma to the head, and especially like, what Damar went through. When I saw that live, I was like, woo, I got practice tomorrow. Like, I'm not really sure. And everyone deals with it a little bit differently. And you get back to the reality of like, yeah, this is a violent sport, and this is, it's very sad. And these are the things you kind of sign up for, and almost anything can happen. But, it's like a give or take. You sign up for it, what you're in, and it's real life. And at the same time, I am happy with some of the steps that we're taking as a league, but it's just it's a fine line. It's a tough place to be able to balance all that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with everything you said. My brother's a high school coach in South Carolina right now, and so we're last in mental health, and we're last in anything else. But they still get complaints from the parents and things like that. And they're just like, listen, we're using all the precaution. We're using the extra padding on the helmet. They're tackling dummies. We grew up in Florida. We played Pop Warner like you did. So yeah, I mean, growing up in Florida, you learn everything about how to take somebody to the ground. And Pop Warner, I mean, I was 5 years old in full pads, dipping my mouthpiece in the boiling water.
Just to mold it.
Yeah. West Orange was who I played for growing up. And, I already knew where you come down on it. I just know that, people constantly ask about that when it comes to like the mental health aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, I saw that hit, what was it, 2 games ago where your boy got flagged for that and you commented on it. I was with you on that. I think everybody is. And Deion Sanders' son got, taken out of a college game for a similar hit this past weekend as well, or 2 weekends ago. And I mean, people don't realize like how bang that stuff really is. And if you don't feel it on your head, you're like, all right, that was great. And then there's flags flying, the other person's walking, perfectly fine. And there is you are right, there is a fine line to it, man. So I appreciate you being vocal about that, or at least being able to talk about it with me. My brother won't even talk about it with me really, but yeah, he's just like, dude, he's like, man, you played the sport because of that reason. And I was like, yeah, you're exactly right. I did. But right. Yeah, man. So, we have another team member, Nate Boyer. He was on the Seahawks for a while in the NFL after playing for the Texas Longhorns. Really cool guy. He's an actor now. He's, life after NFL type guy. And he created a nonprofit called Merging Vets and Players, where ex-veterans meet with ex-players and they kind of build a community because, after the NFL, it's a really hard adjustment. We're seeing that, we've got team members who, are kind of on the verge of being done with baseball and not really. And I've got friends who played for years, and it takes a mental toll as, after it's over with, is to like, all right, well, what now? Dedicating every day of every, of every month, of every week to, this game. And, now it's gone. But you've had you've had a longer career. So I don't know, if that's something that you really think about, like what's next. I mean, I'm sure you do, but would you mind talking about it a little bit about, do you plan for the future?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I talk about it all the time, honestly, with, just my wife and kind of the season of life we're in. We have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, 2 girls and a boy. I know our house is busy. God bless my wife. She's like, "Are you ready to retire? Are you ready to retire?"
Oh, that's awesome. That's
but so we talk about it all the time, and I think what's going to help a lot in terms of transitioning is knowing, coming from a standpoint of having a relationship with Jesus being my Lord and Savior, and just knowing that football is not the end all be all. That doesn't mean that the transition will be any easier, but I think it'll help a little bit knowing that, hey, I played the game. I exasperated all of my energy and time and my effort into my team, into my teammates. I did my absolute best while I was in it. And obviously I'm still in it. And I'm just thinking about in terms of when retirement does come. And I just think like it'll be an easier transition for me because I would have left nothing on the table. And I know that football is not where my identity comes from. Like I was saying, my identity comes from, knowing and believing in who Jesus says I am. And so I think having that will help me so much be able to transition into what's next, or what God has for me next. And I think even just like this past bye week, like, I'm going in and I'm still getting treatment every now and then, but we were off for, numerous amounts of days, and I'm taking my daughter to school, and I'm picking her up, and we're doing lunch dates and, things that I don't really get to do as much during the season. And I was sitting there reminiscing, and I'm just like, man, like, these are the things that I'm missing while I'm playing. And these are the things that like, I don't get to do now, sacrificing now. So, our family will be better for it later. But these are the things that I'll get to do when I retire. And yes, I'll miss the locker room. Yes, I'll miss game days. Yes, I'll miss just playing in general. But I'll gain so much more on the back end, and who knows the type of relationships that I'll gain outside of football with other people and entrepreneurship and, anything that has to come with that. Right. And so, I just think like whatever's, quote unquote lost, and whatever, whenever I retire from football, there's so much more I'll gain on the back end of it. And that's kind of my mindset going into it. And hey, call me naive. You don't know what you don't know. Right. And I'm sure a bunch of guys had that thought and have those thoughts when they're thinking about retiring from the game. But I'm honestly, there's a part of me, not yet, but there's a part of me that's, excited for that next journey, that next chapter when it does come, because you have a certain platform and impact in the NFL, but it doesn't demean your impact and your platform once the NFL is done, whatever you step into or whatever God, and in this case for me, whatever he has in store for me and whatever I step into. And so when that time comes, man, I know I'm gonna be excited. I'm not gonna have any regrets in terms of the NFL, and I'm really just gonna be pumped to step into a new season of life. When that time comes.
Right on. And I'm used to talking to people on here who, we've had most of the influencers have gone through, like mega traumatizing stories like mine. I was falsely arrested, and while I was in jail, this guy took his life, and then it was the cover up and the police misconduct afterwards that kind of really, really did the damage to me. And I lost faith legitimately. I was raised Christian by my father and my mother. Your girl, when you're in college, your girlfriend is everything. And she was, she was big into Christianity. We used to go to church and all that good stuff. And then after this happened, I was just, it was so traumatizing what I went through. I lost my family during the process because they didn't want me to sue the police. And, I lost faith. And then it wasn't until I actually went into treatment and went through what I went through, and I realized what people really meant when they say hopeless. And I remember feeling like, oh, this is what they mean. Like, I have no hope. Literally, it's gone. And then I remember just being like, I'm leaving faith out. Like, I don't have nobody to trust but me. I don't have anything. And it was remarkably harder to look forward to the next day when I had no faith in anything. I just, I was just like, okay, you're by yourself. There's nobody there for you. And dude, I went to a place where, and I talk about this a little bit, but I want you to be able to share this with your friends, so I'm not getting too much into it. But I went to the place where the real deal happened to these people. And, like veterans who may have killed an innocent civilian and can't live with themselves, individuals who were forced to sleep with their significant, or not their significant other, their sibling on camera in front of their dad. And then, major traumatizing abuse. And in that place, there's very little room for faith. And it wasn't until we started WhiteFlag and I started bringing people in, and I realized like all the people who are the most helpful to this company keep dumping this faith stuff on me, this Jesus stuff. And I'm like, that didn't work last time. And I'm one of our main investors. She's a very big philanthropist, but she's also well known for her work in, the Christian church across the globe. And slowly but surely, she brought me back in, and she brought the light back into me. And most importantly, I just started feeling better, believing that it wasn't just in my hands. Yeah. And that's the issue that we all have. Like, you just keep saying, like, I got God, I got Jesus. I know that after this, I'm good. Somebody's got me. And what happens in the mental health fight is they go through so much that they don't believe that anybody's out there, anybody's got them. Like, and if they did, they turned their back a long time ago. So I'm interested because it does help so much to think this isn't all on you. There's something else out there. There's something else that you can't see that's operating in the background that's just going to make sure that everything works out. So I want to talk about that for a second with you. How long? So have you been? You just heard my little journey there. Have you been, this devout for this long, and what's changed if you haven't?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I was born. So my mom is white. My dad was black, and growing up, I grew up in a Christian household because that's pretty much all they had. Like, they were still when they were dating, they were still kind of in the era where it was a little bit frowned upon, and they're both sides of the family were just trying to get used to being around and supporting. And so really all they had was each other, and then their faith. And so I was the firstborn. I have two younger brothers, and that's kind of what I grew up in. And so I kind of grew up all around that, all up until I hit college. And my first couple of years in college, I was just trying to figure everything out. Like, I'm on my own. I'm not being forced to go to church like I was in high school and middle school and elementary school. And, I'm just finding my own being, who I want to be, what I want to be about. And I would say really then is like when I truly found, like going into my junior year of college is when I like truly found my own personal relationship with Christ. And that's kind of what helped. And I'll say this all the time. And, when you're talking about like your personal relationship, like I think it's so good that even when I was talking about earlier, like, hey, what's next after football? And I know I may not know, but I know who does know. And although that may help me, it doesn't, that doesn't always help, especially if you happen to be more anxiety forward or fear forward. And and that's just the reality of it. And anyone can go point to scripture and be like, well, it says here in Matthew chapter 5 that do not be anxious. God talks about, or Jesus talks about how on the Sermon of the Mount where I take care of the birds, and are you not greater than they? And I cover the grass with clothing, and are you not greater than that? And it's true, and it's all very important to take in and to hear. But I don't think that and I'm not speaking against scripture, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think that it's almost like someone going up to you and saying like, hey, your thoughts are or what you're feeling is like, you need to just like put that on the back end. Like, and it's so hard because you're not, you know what I mean? And it's so hard to just like throw that at someone. And the Jesus that I know and that I read in scripture definitely would preach that sermon, but would also sit in that moment of whatever with you, moment of anxiousness, or moment of sorrow, we see that all throughout scripture. And so for me, like, I know what's expected, I know what's asked, and I know what the Bible says, but I also know that Jesus was a person, first and foremost, half God, half human, or fully human, fully God at the same time, and met you where you were at. And I think that's what's the most comforting, is like, at the end of the day, that's what we all want and long for. And I think everyone finds it in something different. And myself and my wife and my family, we just believe that, like, first and foremost, you need to understand that, like, I tell my wife all the time, like, I'm going to fall short, I'm not going to be able to always serve you the best way that I can, and vice versa. But I know there is someone that will never fall short, and that I can always count on, and that's Jesus. And that doesn't mean that I love my wife any less. I'm just human. I'm going to make mistakes. I mess up on the daily. But I'm just so thankful that I have a relationship, with someone that I know won't let me down, and that will never leave me, no matter how many times I let him down. And so I think for me, that's where a lot of my clarity comes from. And by no means does that mean, like, I still need to go and talk to a counselor. I still need to, I still use the WhiteFlag app at times when I'm feeling down, and maybe sometimes I want to hear, in terms of like chatting, maybe sometimes when I'm chatting, I want to hear something on the other side of it. But sometimes I just need to vent and just like have someone that I know that is going through something similar to me, have them hear me out, and just know that, like, man, he knows or she knows exactly what I'm going through. And so I just think, like, all that stuff helps me, but I'm always gonna know I have a solid foundation in Jesus, and I know what that looks like. And I'm just so thankful that I have that, and it doesn't mean things get any easier. It doesn't mean that my mind doesn't race and wonder. But I have someone that I know will always be there for me. And that to me is just the ultimate, like, man, yes, please, I need that. So.
Yeah, no, that's great description, man. And you're not somebody who, and I think all of the Christians in my life, are, and I put it in quotes because, like, my dad says he's Christian, but I mean, that guy does not embody, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, like, legitimate, Christians in my life, they don't push it on you until it, like me with you just now, like, you waited until I opened up the conversation, and that it's not something, you know what I mean? Like, and for me, where I grew up where you did. I grew up in Florida. I grew up around a lot of racism. My family's from South Carolina. We grew up in Florida. I played for an all black football team in Pop Warner at West Orange. Like it was the best thing ever because I wasn't allowed to invite people, home with us at first. And then eventually, my mom and my dad is the one he eventually caved, and I started having, like the entire team, all my parties and stuff. And it really molded me into a better person, much better person. But it was you're going to burn in the lake of fire tonight because you didn't do X, Y, Z, to a little boy. And it wasn't till later, my little brother went, he studied theology a little bit in college. And so, he was like, I don't think Dad was really right. That's not the Christianity that you would know and love, John. I think you should give it another chance. And I'm going, no, I know what it was. And that was horrific. And,
right.
It's people like you, and I know this means something to you, but it's people like you that make the religion attractive and make it comforting and make it a place that's warm. Because I'm telling you, man, a lot of people go through what I went through, and they're like, I do not want to be a part of that. Whatever he was a part of, even if he was wearing green shirts all the time, I will never wear a green shirt the rest of my life.
For sure.
He put me through that. And so, I think you should know that you embody what it is that is, safe and comfortable and attractive to those of us who are sitting on the outskirts. Like, I'm just going to get hurt. I'm just going to get let down. And so, it means a lot, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us. One thing that you were talking about is getting on the app, and, obviously the app is a great tool for anybody who is kind of stuck in their thoughts and spinning their wheels, and you just get on there and you talk to somebody else who's going through the same things. You're like, oh my God, I'm not going to be stuck here forever. You were here and you made it out, or you're going through it with me and you can help me out. But one thing that, we really capture in a bottle on White Flag is empathy. And it's the ability for you to either give empathy and be like, I've been through it. It was horrible. What you're feeling is valid, or receive it. You're not this loser. Like for me, I was a middle child in a family full of huge, huge brothers and who played college ball. I was like, my dad was a coach off Varsity Blues. He didn't even care if I have a good game. You know what I mean? Like he didn't even look at me. I literally grew up like that. And so when you get on White Flag and you tell somebody even like the smallest issue that you're going through, it's not what I grew up with, which is like, suck it up. Your brothers are going through worse. Suck it up. I had worse. And this, on White Flag, there's none of that. These individuals are literally there to give you the true reaction, the true empathetic response to what you're going through. And that's also, from what I can tell, is also the Christian way about it. And that is taking what you've been through and using it for good. And, that's what we allow on the app is kind of to say, I know that you're there and I know you're experiencing this, but I was there and I made it through, and I'm doing a little bit better, and it gives you enough push to make it through that moment. So dude, I could continue on this subject with you forever, but I know that my team wants to, me to get a little bit deeper and hear, on your end of it. We want to hear about, a time where, you were at zero, or you were in a really dark place and you made it through that. Because again, that's what we do on White Flag. We know that the people that we're talking to, and even our heroes like you, dude, you're a legitimate hero. I've seen the look in these kids' eyes. So, what was a dark point where you were like, man, I don't know if I'm on the right, I'm sure you've got a bunch in mind, but is there one you could share with us where, you made it through and you were like, man, that was something I didn't think I was going to be able to get through?
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a few. I think
everybody's got a lot.
I know, right? And I think that's kind of part of it. Is I think for the longest time, even still a little bit now, like, whatever you are dealing with and are going through is important to you, and it's real to you. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. It's like, oh man, well, I never did this and I didn't do that. So, shouldn't I be grateful and thankful? And if it's affecting your mental health, it's affecting your mental health. And the best thing you can do is go seek advice or find someone that's going to help you kind of get back to a full functioning you. And that's really the end of it. There's no there's no tiers or levels to what's acceptable and what's not acceptable to receiving help. And so there's a little bit of that I needed to kind of get over. But I think answering your question more specifically, I lost my dad in the beginning of this year.
Oh,
and
man, I'm sorry.
No, it's thank you. And I think, you know, and he lost this fight with bladder cancer, and it happened in like October of 2022. And, you know, we knew that as the months were going on, that it was getting worse and worse, and just kind of bled into other areas of his body. And, you know, we were kind of prepping for his departure into, you know, into heaven kind of earlier in this year of 2023. But during that, like, you know, during that time, I always felt like I had to like save face, and cause, you know, he was very, how do I say this? Like, he had like tough love growing up. I love my dad, and he was great. I loved everything about him. There's some things that he instilled in me that I'm so thankful for in terms of being a father and what that looks like and how to do it. But, you know, he definitely had some tough love on his boys, and, you know, expected and demanded a lot out of us, especially me being the oldest. And so going through that whole process, like, I felt like I had to suppress a lot of my emotions, and, you know, I had to be the big older brother, even for my mom. Like, you're talking about being like the head of the house now, and what that looks like to support her, and now how am I going to support my family, all while trying to juggle being a leader on the team and trying to help us string together some wins, and dealing with that burden. And then also while going home, like, I still have I have a 4-year-old, and I have two pretty much, I have a 1-year-old and one that's just a newborn. And so, like, trying to help my wife, you know, while also juggling all these different, and so I was just in a season of like complete mess. And, you know, and I'm still, and I think for me, like, after my dad's passing is when it really started bleeding over. And, you know, like the weeks, the months go by, and, you know, I'm in the off season now. I'm in the spring of 2023, and I have like a lot more time on my hands. And, you know, even during OTAs, practices aren't as long, meetings aren't as long. And so I'm just, you know, I'm finding that like my thoughts, I'm sitting in my thoughts a lot more. And you know, I just needed to be able to, and I feel like I couldn't talk to my brothers, cause like I'm holding over my head, like I'm the oldest brother, I need to hold it together, and blah, blah, blah. So I found like, and what I felt like was one of my, you know, darkest moments, in terms of like my thoughts, and just like, what do I do? Where do I go? And even though I was like in prayer and trying my best to give it, you know, to God, and this is what I was talking about, like, I just wanted to talk to someone that's been in a situation similar, or has like seen the other side, or at least can give me some advice on like what helped and what didn't help. Even helps so much more than saying what helped. And so I just remember getting on the app, man, and just like word vomiting, like, man, like I miss my dad. I'm the oldest. Like, what do I do? How do I go about it? Like, does it get better? When does it get better? You know, does it help doing X, Y? Like, I just remember going, like, I felt like for like hours on end at night, like just texting and messaging back and forth, like trying to figure out like, how can I juggle all of this stuff that I felt like that was just slowly like crushing my world. But I have to show up still every day, and I think most men and not just men, women too can relate. Like, man, I got to show up for my family. I got to show up in terms of leadership. I got to show up in all these different areas. And I just felt like I couldn't really hold it all together like I used to. And it was, you know, really weighing on me. And so I'm just thankful that I had the, and that's the other thing. It's not like I received therapy talking points on the app. Like, it's just something about talking to someone that's been on the other side of it, or at least like, hey, I'm in year 5 of losing, you know, both my parents or one of my parents. And, you know, I'm a young 30-something year old male, female, whatever the case may be. And I'm just here to let you know, like, it doesn't get any easier, but what helped me was like my support, my support network of people in my life, and kind of just being more vulnerable with them. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't do that, right? I don't talk to my brothers about it. So maybe that helps me. So that's the type of advice, you know, that I was getting. Also, while talking to a counselor and kind of like running some stuff by him and just seeing like what works, what doesn't work. And I just think like very similarly to, like what I believe in my faith, like the enemy always tells you to, like, you're the only one, like, you gotta hold it together. Like everything's like, keep it in. Don't talk about it. Do this. And the biggest thing that helps you is expanding your worldview and just getting rid of all the negative narratives that we've thrown on it as society or in the world, that like, man, you're not good enough, and you gotta have your thoughts together. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. One of the best things, I've ever heard, and I have to constantly remind myself of it, is, even when you're talking about like, you're like, when you need to show up as a person, and this is how I treat my friends, and this is how I treat even just my relationship with the Lord, is just like, when you go take a shower, like, you don't need to be clean in order to get into the shower. Like, you come into the shower needing to be cleaned. Right. And that's the same thing that how I approach, like, when I'm talking to like my friends, like my really close friends. And then even when I'm approaching to like my relationship with the Lord, is just like, I don't need to come to him with my problems fixed. That's the whole point of my faith. Like I just shared earlier, like, he sits in those moments with you. And I think there are certain things in scripture that help, but like, he sits in that moment with you. And I have friends that sit in that moment with me and don't necessarily try to like coach me out of it. Like sometimes all I need is like my wife to just sit there and be like, I can't imagine, but like, I'm here with you, and you just feel that presence. And that's one of the things that I think I'm the most thankful for, is sometimes there aren't enough words in the world to kind of comfort you, but just knowing there's something about what you talked about, the empathy aspect of just knowing someone understands to a certain degree what you're going through and will just sit in that with you. There's something powerful about that, because they're seeing you at what you think is your lowest and your weakest moment, and they're still saying, I want you, I love you, and I accept you. And that to me is like what fills my heart. And for the longest time, that was like only my dad. And it took me a while to, outside of my relationship with Christ, and it took me a while to be open with that. So I'm like, no, people can't see that I have, that side of me, that I miss him, and that like I'm hurting without him, and that I'm going through a lot. Like, there's so many people that are looking up to me, and I can't show that side of me. And all along, like, I don't need to have everything together in order to still be impactful for others, or even to be impactful for my family. And so, that's just, and I'm still working through it, honestly. Yeah. And I think, for me, in terms of talking about that, it's just going to be something that I worked through for a while. But I'll tell you this, having the app, having my network of people, and most importantly, having my relationship and faith in Jesus has completely and overwhelmingly helped me so much in that area, and just being open and honest and being willing to share and to give that up. So it's kind of what I'm working through.
Man, you hit the nail on the head so many times. I mean, talk about life after football. It's hard to put into words emotions and feelings in a way that other people can understand it the way that you just did and the way that you do. I mean, there's just so much that you said that's right on. It's not about the amount of trauma that you've been through. It's not about what you're going through. All that matters is that you're struggling and you're suffering. And no matter what end of the spectrum it may be, there's somebody else out there who feels the same way you do. They may feel as though like, oh, what do I have to be, everybody loses a dad. Like, what do I have to worry about? What do I have to cry about? That's not it. I mean, it's a difficult thing. Most people that I talk to who have been through enormous amount of trauma, and I'm talking about crazy trauma, will say losing someone they loved was the worst part of all of it. In a lot of cases, they lost that last brick that was framing the house, holding them up, and then the house just crumbles. In your situation, I think you tackled it way early and in a very healthy way. You got peer support from WhiteFlag. You had your own therapist that you talked to, which is extraordinarily important that people understand. that it's good to have your network and peer support, White Flag, but a counselor is also there to kind of guide you through it. And so, yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head in so many different points, but the reality of the situation is that, a lot of people, they say, well, I'm not qualified to, give people advice or whatever. And you are exceedingly qualified to offer comfort to somebody. And that's what you get from just sitting, almost in silence, or just being with somebody, letting them know, hey, I'm struggling, letting them know, what it is that you're going through, and they don't leave and they're still sitting there. You're like, oh my gosh, this isn't like this like crazy thing that's so overwhelming I can't overcome, or that it's so little that I have no reason to even, be sad about it or deal with it. And we say something in my relationship with my wife, and I use it with my friends now. And that is when they tell me that they're struggling, like you said, without trying to solve it, and without trying to, give them all these antidotes to, that are written on Hallmark cards. We always ask each other, do you want solutions or do you want comfort? And 100 times out of 100, we say we want comfort. We know the solutions. We know the solutions, and it's time. In all cases, it's time, and going through a healthy regimen of different things that you can do, to kind of pass the time and to heal yourself chemically. But dude, grief is, especially in your situation where you learned a lot from your father, and you're the oldest, so above you is only him. As far as, who's in charge. Now he's not there. And so you kind of get thrust up as the patriarch of the family. And, with that comes, well, I got to be strong. And, I think that a lot of people are going to relate to, what you just said. We get a lot of conversations about grief. And that's the one thing that we always tell people. They're like, I'm not really sure. I don't struggle with mental health. I'm going to be fine. It's not something I even need to hear about. Everybody loses people and things that they love. And that is the common denominator. Besides that we love things, it's that we lose the things that we love. And if you have ever lost something or somebody that you love, it's a profound experience, no matter what. And it gets you thinking, and thoughts can be the enemy, especially when you are in a stage of grief or depression or whatever it may come with losing that. And so unpacking those thoughts, kind of like untangling a knot in your head, all you're doing is just handing them the string and they're pulling it. We use that sort of animation a lot, but yeah, man, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, with everything that you just said. And I'm with you. I'm excited for, your career in the NFL. It's one of the best careers that I've ever seen, as far as like people I know. I've had a bunch of friends play. You're certainly the most successful athlete, but the truth is, like, I mean, just talking with you, man, and hearing your story and the impact that you already have, like, you got so much more to do after this is over with. And I will certainly be holding the title co-founder next to me. Yeah, man. I mean, it's you just you have a lot to give. And, at White Flag, we're just really grateful that you've chosen us and our company and the people that are, the 120,000 that are on the app right now. You've chosen to say, this is a company, this is a product, this is an app that, I trust. I'm putting my name behind it and all that means. And, it's something that I will never take for granted, and neither will anybody on our team. We're here to support you and everything that you do. And, I just can't thank you enough for, all that you've done for us, but also, all that you've done for the community just in general, because it really brought us in. So thanks, man. I mean, really, man.
Nah, that means a lot. And like I told you before, like it, for me, it's an easy yes. And, even when I heard it, and I almost instantly was like, yeah, just say yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, before I even met anyone or saw what the app was about, like, you kidding me? Still when COVID was popping around, and it's just like, people are already, you keep anyone at home for an extended amount of time, and, mental health is going to, fly through the roof, and so you just, it's it's just something that needed to be addressed, and I think tried to be addressed through different avenues and platforms and things like that. But one that you guys are just doing the right way and helping people the right way and giving people a voice to be able to be comforted or heard. And so it's an easy yes, and I'm just so thankful to play just such a small role in that, and looking forward to, like I told you before, continuing to see how this thing continues to grow and save lives. And it's just going to be so amazing to watch it continuously, and go on the upward trajectory, standpoint. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, man. And you're a big part of that. You're a part of the original team. I know that, you probably don't even feel that impact, but we decided early on, the image that we wanted, the personality, the character of the company. And, we wanted it to be black, white, and gold. We wanted it to be neutral. We kind of wanted it to be, for people that look at, hearts and likes and go, that's not for me. And then on the other end of the spectrum, people who need that warmth and affirmation, that be able to get it. And, the way you say it, we just built something that there just wasn't anything like it. And the most important thing I learned when building it was how much people underestimate what we can do for each other and what it feels like just to be there for each other. It's hard for me to sell as the CEO, it's hard for me to sell an idea of an emotion, so what is it that you get from peer support? And it's just impossible to say, it's almost like describing love. You have to, like, two people, they meet each other and they're upset. Is that the word, obsessed? Like, no, it's love, and it's impossible to describe. So that feeling that you get when somebody else is there for you without judgment, and that they understand you, they've been through it. They're not going to say anything. They're not going to go, oh my God, I can't believe that you're doing that as a way to cope. Oh my goodness. They're not going to say it because they're going through the same thing. And there is magic in that we can't describe, but I can tell you that it's real. And that's what we sell at WhiteFlag. We don't sell anything really because it's a free app, but that's what's bottled up at WhiteFlag that people are drinking by the droves, is that special emotion that's created between two human beings who are there for each other without judgment. So if you're curious as to what that feels like, or if you want to be a part of that, we're free. The app is free on the Google Play Store and in the Apple App Store. Go read the reviews. The reviews are unbelievable. We just found out through some of our reviews that the crisis line is referring people to WhiteFlag. We found out in our reviews that we've had several people who have had their life saved from being on the app. They're actually writing that in the comments and reviews. Go read them. It has just been an overwhelming experience, and we're just getting started out. There's going to be more features. There's going to be more team members. We opened up in Canada to, thousands and thousands of downloads. We're going to be opening it up in Europe pretty soon. And then, we're going to stretch this thing around the globe, and all that we're selling and all that we're doing is showing people that when you're there for somebody else, or when somebody else is there for you without judgment, because they've been through it, that something special happens. So go try it for yourself, and just know, that you're truly not alone. And, even athletes that you see on Sunday who, have all these contracts that make the headlines, they're going through the same thing as you. They're experiencing, human experience the same way. And that doesn't make them, less special. It just makes all of us the same amount of special. So for those of you out there who got anything from this episode, please go download our app. You follow us on social media. And I usually tell people where to find out or find our guests, but you don't really need me to tell you that. Just check out TV on Sundays, Denver Broncos, number 31. Also the Justin Simmons Foundation. If you guys could go, to his website and check it out. What's the website, Justin? JustinSimmonsFoundation.org or something?
Yeah, that's it. JustinSimmonsFoundation.org. Yep.
Knew it. My memory's coming back. Yeah.
Right off the top.
Y'all post on Justin's social media that you saw him on WhiteFlag, and vice versa with us, show him some love. Cause Justin literally had us on the field for a game. It was one of the most unbelievable experiences, especially for us. We're from the small town in the South. This stuff just doesn't happen to us. And, we're just eternally grateful for you. I think we got you some shirts and stuff for you to, yeah, man, for you to,
you okay?
Yeah, you're going to hear, no, I'm not okay. People say that to me. Oh, I'm in the gym and somebody like, not okay. And I'll say, all right, go download the app. But I could continue on all night, but I'm going to let you go back to your life. I'll see you on TV, and I look forward to, continuing to talk to your team. And if you ever need anything from us, man, you know where to find us.
Yeah. Hey, thank you again, Johnny, for having me on. Man, it was an absolute blessing. And like I said, just even the platform to be able to get on here and share a little bit. And even be, I felt like I received something. So even being spoken into, man, I appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing. And yeah, we'll definitely link up here soon. Can't wait to see you.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.